to anyone who does chime in later, sorry about all the stubble. If that bothers you, I don't really care. Doesn't matter. I just haven't had time to shave. For anyone else that chimes in, just want to say freedom of speech may be under attack. Um, if you don't already know, there's a lot of laws being passed, or I should say, being attempted to pass, that are pretty much a direct infringement on literally the First Amendment, the right of freedom of speech. That's what this whole uh, video will be about. It's currently a live stream, but later on will be posted, just like all others. People can chime in, talk, and everything will be up for debate, whether it's for, against, in between. I'm still here just to chit chat with anybody that does chime in. And sorry about all the coughing in advance, folks. I'm drinking a shake. Lactose intolerant, but I don't care. Shakes are delicious, and one every now and then doesn't kill you. Plus, I got some water to help wash it down. But currently, I'm actually looking up specific laws on the side to try and find what exactly is trying to be posted, so that I can, just like all my things, have links to exactly what might be out there. anyways, for future folks, anybody watching this after this goes live, I'm going to post this right now. This is what I'm actually reading currently. Basically, looks like it's about Biden and a few people talking about freedom of speech. As an example, and part of this this week, Speaker Nancy Pelosi, or Pelosi, sorry about that. Nancy Pelosi denounced Facebook's CEO Mark Zuckerberg for resisting speech monitoring and censorship as a matter of free speech. She lashed out, those who want to preserve a free speech zone are all about making money. I can. That also keeps going on and on, but I really don't think that's what it is. There's never been a person that's like, I want to be able to freely speak because I make money off of it. I don't see how that's a possibility. Maybe there's some people that do, but there's certain places. I'm not going to say specifics, but we'll just say as examples. Let's say China in the past, when it used to literally censor its people, and it still does to this day to a certain extent. But even better yet, the best censorship of all is North Korea. We literally have seen many posts that come from people that leave North Korea and actually talk about just how much they're censored, to where everything they say has to be government regulated. They cannot speak against their supreme leader. In fact, he's looked at as a god because his family has been able to run the entirety of North Korea so long. And quite frankly, freedom of speech is what makes the U.S., in many ways, one of the ironic, one of a kind nations. Because, yes, there are a lot of nations that have a freedom of speech in some form or another. America currently is, to my knowledge, the only one, though, that actually has full freedom of speech, to where the Supreme Court has literally over and over and over had multiple cases come up where they're like, we need to have hate speech put in as a exception, or we have to have this put in as exception, or this or that. And every single time the Supreme Court has said no. There is literally no way we will write an exception to freedom of speech. Now, does that mean that if you, for instance, go up to somebody and you're like, hey, like faggot or gay, homo, or yada, yada, you list off some sort of slander. If you say something to someone, does that mean they just have to put up with it? No, that doesn't. Having the right to have free speech doesn't also mean that you have no punishment or backlash from it. It simply means you have the right to say whatever you want. Now, that doesn't mean that there's never going to be recommendations. Just like if you're being put in cuffs for something and you go, fuck the police, or some sort of stuff like that. If you say something like that, there is literally going to be potential backlash because you're literally inciting violence. There's other things that they can charge you on, I'm sure, for stuff like that. But there is a gentleman that apparently Biden has been talking to, Stengel something. I don't know if that's his last name or first name. I wasn't paying really close attention when I was skimming through here. But he apparently is a very unnerving and outspoken voice against freedom of speech. He's wrote how hard it is to express our views of freedom of speech in Arab countries. Why would that even matter? We know Arab countries tend to not enjoy freedom of speech, so why would we care what they think of ours? Also other countries which have, of course, routinely jailed people and even executed people for just even trying to exercise free speech. But he quite literally states that the design flaw is freedom of speech itself. A nation filled with gifted people to lead the effort on government media policies and positions. Biden selected a person who literally rejects the very essence of freedom of speech. Stengel promises the unity of a nation silenced by government speech codes and censorship. If no one has a megaphone, free speech is no longer a problem. That's literally how a dictatorship runs. Like they literally silence you and eventually tell you what you can and cannot say, can and cannot do, etc. So he's literally appointing people as heads of the nation to help him with the nation that don't care about the actual nation itself. Oh, not to mention, if you guys didn't already know, there is literally a lawsuit happening right now against Facebook. Yeah, we're not on Facebook here. This is on YouTube, but the same could apply. It's a very large scale platform, and lots of people look for it. I have a feeling the reason I'm not even seeing a few people jumping in right now that were talking about wanting to join my stream as it came on today. They may not even be seeing it because I posted it through Facebook. And guess what? Facebook is currently literally undergoing a lawsuit for freedom of speech. They're trying to restrict it. Now, it's their right as a company to pick and choose what they do and don't want to have on their actual platform. The problem is not that they're basically picking and choosing. The problem is back in 2019, I believe it is, that they might have been even earlier than that, but they stated that they no longer were going to be banning, blocking, and or censoring any sort of content. They wanted it to be a open sourced platform where people can freely express their opinions, whether it be right or wrong. Now, when you're saying something like that, you can't, for instance, take all Republicans and tell them, hey, we don't want you, and then only post everything the Democrats say, or vice versa. You can't take everything the Democrats say and block all that and then only post what Republicans say. That part is illegal. That is actually falsifying information within your own agenda. Like you literally can have a lawsuit under it, which is why they're actually going to court currently for this. The same thing could end up happening with YouTube if they ever try to censor stuff like this, and they've already stated that they don't want it. Now, to my knowledge, YouTube doesn't currently have that. So if they suddenly one day were like, you know what, we don't want all these political posts, they have the right, as far as I'm aware currently, to literally remove all of them. Why would you though? Because it's literally a part of history. It shows things that people are literally looking forward to, looking against, etc. And it shows where citizens are and are not worried. And therefore, it allows people to basically voice their opinion on a platform that really is open side, such as, for instance, how YouTube allows people to talk about the flat Earth theory versus the round Earth theory. Either side could be wrong, either side could be right. Now, whether it's right or wrong, though, they are freely allowing people to at least express and see those views. considering the Biden administration currently states it's for the people, and yet wants to disassemble the NRA, tear down the how is it the NFA, wants to dismantle the First Amendment and break the freedom of speech laws down into a dictatorship sort of scenario where you can say this, but you can't say this, and this might be within a gray area. No, you can't do that. He's literally trying to run the country like a dictator to the point where he's just executive order overriding like every single thing that he possibly can. I think the count last I checked, his third day in office was like 19 executive orders. Trump in total, let me look this up. Trump's okay, so just as an example, let's go back a ways. Bill Clinton wrote 364 total executive orders throughout his entire time in office, which is quite a bit. The man apparently was just writing off the fly left and right. George W. Bush apparently did 291. Now he was in the office total of 2 terms. If I'm not mistaken, I might be wrong, but double check that if you want. Barack Obama, pretty certain he was in for 2 terms because everybody hated, well, most people seemed to hate how he was running the country. 276. Donald Trump put in 220 total. Now, needless to say, Donald Trump was under what Barack was, but he was also in office less time. So over that span, more. But when compared to George W. Bush, Bill Clinton especially, and several other presidents I could go through, but just not going to list the entire thing. That's not what this is about. Donald Trump wrote overall less executive orders. Now, a lot of those that he did right were to undo what Barack Obama had done. So out of the 276 that Barack did, those 220, I'm pretty certain it was about 100 to 140 that he had wrote trying to undo what Barack had done. I don't personally care about the whole back and forth debate about, oh, Republicans need to take out what Democrats did and Democrats need to take out. No, if you're the president of the United States, you really should be just for the people. It doesn't matter if you're like, hey, this is what our party wants, or hey, this is what their party wants. Just what do the people want? That's what you're supposed to look at, not everything else. Yeah, no, as of freedom of speech, that is greatly under attack currently. And it's almost a shame that so many people apparently voted for a president that they clearly didn't look into, because the man, even during his time campaigning, directly stated at a campaign rally, I don't need your votes to get elected. That was a direct quote from him. Why would you say you don't need the votes to get elected unless you were certain you were able to cheat and get away with it? Because literally, you do need people's votes. That's how you get elected. And so, unless he had already paid off all of the electoral college people and had them guaranteeing him that they were voting for him, no matter what, there's no way you can guarantee that you don't need the votes. So, either way, the man got into office and now he's attacking the First Amendment, the Second Amendment. Because of attacking those, he's attacking the 19th Amendment. Let's see, I believe it would be the 14th also. I'm not super up on my. Oh yeah, he is attacking the 14th Amendment. That's the one that granted citizenship, and it actually defines what citizenship is, because he literally is talking about uh, allowing any person that previously had a child here that, for instance, say a Hispanic or an Arab or anybody else, anybody around the world, they weren't legal here. Say they came here, had sex with someone, that person had a baby, or even two illegals. They come here, they have a baby. When that baby is born here, that baby is legal here. Now, according to the laws that Trump tried writing, those parents, yes, are illegal. They have to fill out their paperwork. They have to try and get a legal citizenship here. If they refused or they did not within a certain limited period of time, they were deported. And a lot of people got furious over that because they're like, they're separating kids. What you don't understand is that's giving false votes that you can literally put into the system, because then people can just vote on new presidents and they're not even actually a part of the citizenship. That's like, say, all of us just suddenly go to Russia. So everybody from the US goes to Russia, and we suddenly, if they had a democratic election, we could all randomly vote on whoever we want. So they could just pay us to vote for one side or the other. And suddenly, hey, we know nothing about that, but we might vote for the person that their side's paying us the most. So we know nothing about it. We're all voting for them. That gets them elected. Well, Biden is trying to pass it to where he wants an executive order to override that, so those parents are no longer considered illegal, so they have the rights to come back and be with their child, and B, wants to grant them automatic citizenship for, I think it was a year. That way it helps them to fill out the paperwork, get a job, etc., to help them jump into the economy, to start trying to get a job, etc., etc. I'm not against them trying to get a job and everything, but the problem is you're trying to take people that literally 90% of the time do not know English at all. They're coming here specifically to try and get freedom from their country, etc. And you're having people vote on a system they're not familiar with, on people that they're not familiar with, and you're trying to give them all of the American rights without having them learn about those rights or anything. So there's a giant problem there, because again, that goes into the freedom of speech system. Because what if they don't know our speech, so they are voicing their opinion literally in any manner or form, which means if one of them, now they're a legal citizen or whatever, if their kid that grew up not understanding anything we did was raised by them without going to school, where everyone just learns things on the fly, which I've seen some do, they're a legal citizen. They can legally become the president of the United States. Now, if they grow up and they do become the president of the United States, guess what? That allows them to use what their parents taught them, which literally is based off nothing but, hey, we were allowed to come here and do anything we want. They can be president and they can go off of that and use that bias. So there's so much wrong, which is literally allowing people into a country, giving them full freedom. I'm not saying take away their freedom of speech, but I'm saying there's so much wrong with the freedom of speech power that we're trying to give people that don't know anything about the country in general. So they might say, oh, Biden is so wonderful. He let us come to the country and be with our child. But the problem is they don't understand why. They don't understand hows. They don't understand what he's actually doing. And what that relates to is, in turn, he eventually could get their votes because now they see him as a great man. And they don't have to look into anything that he's done. And so that automatically can jump his vote count. And so now you have a person that is doing a lot of bad things for the country that potentially gets right back into the country because those two parents now are saying he's a wonderful man. So now the child will probably vote for him and the parents will vote for him. They pass that word around their community that they live in. And guess what? If they don't get educated enough by the time that he's running for a second term, you gain a ton of votes. Therefore, a man that is against freedom of speech gets reelected. And that's where I say the freedom of speech comes in, because you're literally pushing a man into office by allowing him to override things that make no sense to override. But I am 99% sure right now that Facebook is trying to block my live feed from being shown to friends, because it still shows I have not had a single person join. Uh, so I believe I'll probably be cutting this one really short. Uh, it's almost kind of sad that I've cut this one short and not have anybody else jumping in, because it's one of those things that you would think Facebook would grow up. I see another person joined just now, but not sure who you are yet. It hasn't popped up on my side as to the who, but I just got done doing a long speech of some of the things that Biden's trying to do, reasons that free speech should be free and all encompassing, but at the same time, why there's some things that Biden's trying to do that could literally harm freedom of speech, or him in a way with freedom of speech, which, sorry for that, could hurt the economy. Who do we have that joined? If you can, just say it over in the chat. If not, I will wait till it says who the participant is. But I just like greeting my guests. I don't know if it's a super long delay or if they're just not saying anything. Because, yeah, it's not showing any participants right now. And it says the second just went away. But, anyways, my YouTube subscribers and YouTube followers, unfortunately, this one will be cut very short. Usually they're about an hour. The first one ran an hour and a half. I think I'm going to try and keep them to right about an hour, hour and a half, somewhere in there, especially depending on how active the feed is. I may cut them to about 30, 45 minutes. This one, I hope to see comments below. Voice all of your opinions that you want about freedom of speech, hate speech, etc. I know certain people might say, oh, well, hate speech only applies to people saying, for instance, the N word, or saying faggot or stuff like that. The thing is there's no definition for hate speech. And even the laws that Biden wants to pass don't have a actual definition. So he literally would pass a law saying hate speech as a quotation is not allowed, is essentially what it would be written as. That's where I find a really big problem, because you might say, for instance, your beard makes you look ugly, and I could be like, hey, that's hate speech. Now you're jailable. I could get your ass thrown in jail just for saying my beard looks ugly. And that's the problem without a definition of what hate speech is, defining it definitively. There's no good way to even add that, even if as a society, even if everybody in the country came together as a whole and said, yes, hate speech should be added in to the Constitution, there's no good way to put it in. And that's the problem, is even if you define it, it could still be slowly twisted more and more as time goes by. Sorry about the yawning. But yeah, no, it could be little by little twisted, and that's what makes adding hate speech dangerous. Now, do I think that it's It's wrong and it's unmoral to call people things that could be defined as hate speech. Yes, I don't agree with it. Do I think that there could be or should be a law against hate speech? I both am for and against it. I'm for it because it would make people less likely to try and do actions. Just like how people don't walk around in the city and just shoot people's houses for no good because there's penalties that they could incur. If you add something like that, yeah, it could add a penalty. It could get people to decrease in trying to say that stuff. Might have more twisted teas for people because, I mean, you might actually not have to break them over people's heads. But, anyways, beyond that, I also don't think we should add it because then over time, little by little, they're going to twist the wording. They're going to add stuff and get it more and more defined and more refined. And you're going to start seeing with one set of wording, it'll eventually change to 2 and 3 and 10 and 20 and 30 words. And it's going to get to the point where eventually you can't talk without the government telling you, hey, now you can open your mouth at 2 5 p.m. And it might sound crazy that I'm saying, oh, you can only speak between a certain period of time. You can only say certain things. You can only do this. But literally, that's almost how it is in North Korea. That's how it was at one point in Russia. That's why they had so many guns going around shooting people left and right. They're pissed off people over various different issues. Uh, China at one point restricted people's speech, restricted all sorts of different things. There's various countries that have done this. Our country, as the United States, is one of the only countries that literally has complete freedom of speech. There is no hate speech. There is no anti-gender speech. There's nothing in it. And like I said earlier, though, just because you have freedom of speech does not necessarily mean you have freedom from repercussions. And that's where I'll end this one. So leave your comments below. I look forward to chatting with you guys later. Y'all have a wonderful day.